Hello everybody, and welcome back to Lair. In today's video we're discussing skill challenges, and how you can use them effectively. The skill challenge system I'm going over today comes from Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition, and despite what many of you may feel about the edition, there are some things in the book that are worth using. I use skill challenges regularly, and I have done so for years now actually, so hopefully I can guide you all on how to implement them into your games. They work pretty simply, and it's honestly a great option at a Dungeon Master's disposal. First, the Dungeon Master will decide what constitutes a skill challenge. It could be figuring out how to disarm a very dangerous trap or a complicated puzzle. It could be a skill challenge to attempt to escape a dungeon after accidentally alerting a huge horde of skeletons of the party's positions. Whatever it is, set an appropriate DC for the challenge. This can vary based on your game system and the level of the party that you're playing with. I've been known to go as low as DC 10 and as high as DC 20. But DC is important to set appropriately, as it's the target number for your players to beat. If it's too high, you're setting up the party for failure, and if it's too low, well, it'll be a walk in the park. At that point I go around the table and I ask each player what they can contribute to the success of the challenge. The way that they contribute is by rolling a skill check, an attack roll, or a spell check if you're using a spell check casting system like Shadow Dark or something similar. Each contribution in my games needs to be unique to stop players from dogpiling skills, which is very common in games where you've got like a group of fighters or something like that, a group of fucking Giga Chads. Yeah, it can be a real pain in the butt. But an exciting example could be during a big battle, where a group of adventurers, a group of heroes even, hold a bridge waiting for reinforcements to arrive. The party have a few dozen soldiers under their command and must do whatever it takes to hold the position before the king arrives with the rest of the army. This example is fantastic in a war campaign, and I did something like this actually for a group last year, and it was really fun. The players would have to come up with various ways to use their skill sets in order to fend off the warriors who were sent to take the bridge. On the approach, a spellcaster could, perform a very powerful spell, like Fireball, to devastate the enemy infantry. Whether you want them to roll a spell check or not is up to you, but regardless of the actual outcome of that fireball will be disastrous for the enemy. Once the forces clash, the martial characters will be able to react and roll various checks like athletics, sleight of hand, attack rolls, insight, find weaknesses, things like that. And a charismatic character could try to rally the soldiers with persuasion or performance. So there's a lot of things really at your disposal, and I've really seen some cool ideas over the last few years. This system allows your players to get creative, which I feel like a lot of players really do like. It allows your players to feel heroic as well, and that's whether you're playing D&D, Old School Essentials, Dungeon Crawl Classic, or Shadow Dark. Everyone likes to feel heroic at least sometimes. Even if you're not playing a system that is overly heroic, like 5e or Pathfinder. I've also started doing a new type of skill challenge called a contested skill challenge. Now this is kind of cool, right? Now, this isn't from 4th edition, but this is kind of an extension to it, where the players have to compete against NPCs in order to win the challenge. And this allows the Dungeon Master to come up with skills and things that they can actually use on their NPC sheets in order to defeat the party, defeat the players. And the checks actually oppose one another, kind of like how to grapple somebody you have to do an athletics opposed check. This obviously does mean that there is a custom DC, but it does make things a lot more exciting. My best example was the party trying to stop a legendary warrior from leaving the city without harming him. They had to use their skills and abilities to try and overpower him, and that was actually really cool. The barbarian tried to dump tackle him, and the champion rolled a natural 20 and just kicked the shit out of her. You really can't make this stuff up. I'm sure some of you guys have obviously used skill challenges before in your campaigns, and I'd love to hear your feedback on the system, anything you'd do differently, and perhaps any stories that you might have from using the system. I think the craziest scenario for me was several years ago. I had my players do a skill challenge to finish off an epic dragon near the end of my campaign. It was almost something out of like a cinematic skill sequence from a video game. Kind of like the end of Dying Light 1, if any of you have played that. And they did unfortunately lose, and were defeated by the dragon, but the dragon fled. Dragon like flew away. But it left behind its hoard, and the keep that it resided in. It was obviously a bit bittersweet for the party, but it led to a pretty cool rivalry between, you know, the party and the dragon for a while, which eventually ended with this really big showdown, where the party were inevitably victorious. Thanks for watching the video today, guys. If you have any questions about this topic, feel free to let me know in the comments below. I'll see you guys next time on Loki's Lair. Until then.